All right, it's 8:30. We'll get started. Morning, everybody. Do we have any public comments? They're limited to 2 minutes each. Any public comments? Any public comments? Okay, if not, let's take a look at the minutes. And do we have a motion for the minutes?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Morning, Thomas.
Morning.
How are
So, pretty good. So basically we've started contract rock they've been hauling out of Dowd's, down around Libertyville area, District 6. Continuing to work on Palm Boulevard, we're changing that dirt road to a Class A. So, then on Thursday, myself and Billy Droz, we went up to Washington County. We had a company talk to us about Permazyme, which is it's a base stabilization, and it's similar to base 1, which is we've used in the past, but this is like an enzyme that's supposed to react with soil instead of be with rock. So it's kind of intriguing because we don't need to put 6 to 8 inches of rock for the base 1. That's a big expense. This is something we can just mix in with the soil and have the same kind of stabilization. So they've had a couple roads up there that they've done in the past couple of years that we went and looked at, and it was hard to tell because it's been pretty dry here recently, but they definitely seem more solid than the rest of everything that they're looking at.
So this would be similar to the process on nutmeg, right?
Yeah, the stabilization part of it. Yeah, you till up the first 6 inches and then mix this stuff in with water and kind of incorporate it. So I think the only downside to it, you have to be off of it for 72 hours. So for it to set up, but they were saying that's just mainly heavy traffic. So if there's cars or something, houses, then
Right.
they'd be able to get in and out of there. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that makes pretty impressive. So it'll be interesting to see what you
We'd
come up with for the future.
pretty happy with how that's held up over past fall. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
that's kind of all I got
All
for
right. Review grant applications and authorize chair to sign STBG grant application for H43 Libertyville Road from 600 feet east of Key Boulevard to Hemlock.
Okay, that's what I got here. So this is STBG grant, which is the Surface Transportation Block Grant. And it's, but we had the Miller Meeks grant. I think I can say that it's patent approved, but it wasn't quite enough for what we were wanting to get done on that road. So this STBG grant is to cover the rest of that. And then it's almost $1 million of FM for the match on that. So.
Okay, do you want to look at this?
No,
All right,
you saw that at RPA, so.
right. Okay,
Most people allow the chair to sign. Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. And then we have another Sitka grant application for 165th Street Bridge replacement with twin tank cars.
Yep. And this would be, I'm sure you've seen these before. This is just, we're gonna do a twin tanker car replacement on 165th, would be just west of Joe's house there, north of Attic City.
Okay,
I think they covered up to $50,000 of that cost, so
When do you have to have us in the Sitka?
I think he was hoping to get it in the last time, but they met.
We just met last week.
Yeah, and I think, so the 28th, I think he said was the next time, next week.
Right.
Or is
So,
that this week? It might be this week. It's this week, yeah.
So is it a 50/50? He said up to 50,000.
Up to 50,000 of cost covered, yeah. I don't think it's a 50/50 match. It's just they'll cover 50,000.
Motion to approve.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then we have a 60 grant application for 136th Street. Bridge replacement with twin tank cars.
Yep, basically more of the same. Just this would be east this Pleasant Plain, east of Pleasant Plain Road, south of Pleasant Plain.
Right, but didn't we do one like 3 years ago or 4 years ago on 136? Is this east of
That
that?
would be east. This
And
one
that
is east of that. Yes, it's
Okay.
closer to Shermanville than it is to Pleasant Plain, actually.
Okay,
Motion to approve.
Second.
the motion is second in discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
No, your department's doing really well at going after grants.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, set date and time for public hearing to rescind the reclassification of 110th Street. What do you think for this? 2 weeks.
2 weeks from today.
So it's April 8th. You want to go April 8th, 9 o'clock? Do we have anything else in?
So just so I'm clear,
Mhm.
are we talking all of 110th? Because it doesn't say, it just says reclassification of 110
Right, I don't know.
So are we
You know
taking
anything
110?
about
I'm
this?
not sure what.
out of farm to market.
Are you talking about the dirt road by my parents' house?
That's what I'm trying to find out.
So what happened was the city council of Pleasant Plain voted to, because the road department reclassified it as an A without our knowledge, and then the city of Pleasant Plain voted at the city council to leave it unchanged as a B. And they didn't know if they needed to, they didn't think they needed to what's the word,
Classify.
reclassify it as a B if it's already a B. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's what,
I mean, this just rescinds it from an A to a B, back to its prior status.
Right. Well, but what I'm asking is that it doesn't, it says 110, which goes all the way across the county. It doesn't
Right.
say 110th east of
It's,
Timbuktu.
that's
Seems
probably the secretary at the Pleasant Plain Council didn't include that, would be my guess.
Mhm.
so my question is, for us to have a hearing, do we need them specific? Seems like we,
got this wording from Elizabeth.
okay,
Mhm.
from Elizabeth? You know what? She'll probably come in. Why don't we come back to this
Yeah,
so we
I'm
can
not-
get a little more
So you're
detail?
saying, Lee, it should be from Pleasant Plain Road east?
Well, it should define what portion of 110th
Mhm.
we're reclassifying.
I suppose we could just look at the order that was done on August 28th last year to see how that had went forth. at that
I
point.
realize this is just a public hearing, that it's not, but again, see, this is what concerns me. I'm not sure because Pleasant Plain has assumed jurisdiction over a portion of that particular road east of Pleasant Plain Road. We're talking about reclassifying all of 110th. I know some of it, if not all of it, was in farm to market. I don't know whether it still is or not. I just don't know. It's.
So
And-
by going back to the original status, was it farm to market to begin with?
That section was not.
Yeah, okay, so,
Thank you.
Why don't we go further on in the agenda and come back when she's here, because usually she comes. And if not, we'll figure it out at the end of the meeting.
Because when we put in, you post public hearings. In other words, if I live on 110th somewhere along the way or whatever, and it just has public hearing for the reclassification of 110.
No, I understand.
I'm assuming the notice would be more specific.
Right,
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's all we're looking at here as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and then at some point, obviously the conversation's got to be had, whatever, because we would have to change the 28E if we're doing anything in regards, because that was already mentioned.
well, and here's Chauncey, we do have a question.
Yes, Mayor.
All right, so on our agenda, it has set date and time. Let's see. For public hearing to rescind the reclassification of 110th.
Yep.
And we don't have any more information, so we don't know what part of 110th, do we need that in here to make it more clear?
I think the rule of thumb is as much clarity as possible as you can reasonably provide, right? Because obviously you're not reclassifying all of 110, I
Right,
hope, right?
Oh, no, we're not.
So enough information to give these landowners and anybody who wants to talk about it, time to come in and make that known.
are you up on the 110th? We're trying to set date and time for public hearing to.
Yes, I put on the agenda.
Can we have more clarity on what specific part of the road that is so that we can include that so that people
Well-
know it's not like the whole 110th?
Yeah, so basically in September, you had a public hearing to reclassify a portion of 110th Street as a road. So now the request from Pleasant Plain is to just keep it as a B. We had a public hearing on that reclassification, which well, we had a public hearing on it. So now we have to have another public hearing. You have to have a public hearing to change it from an A to a B, even though practically speaking, nothing has been done to actually make it an A.
Right.
Right.
So, so it's really just rescinding that September or October resolution where you reclassified it.
Okay, so could we, as far as what specific part, because I guess my concern is 110th goes out to the Packwood area. People out there might think it's out there and,
I
you
see.
know, if we could just get a little more clarity on 110th Street, the city of Pleasant Plain to,
I think you guys can set that at that public hearing.
Yeah, you can talk about it at the public hearing,
okay.
and provide more clarity.
Could we do this? Could we say public hearing to rescind the reclassification of 110th Street in the Pleasant Plain area?
Yeah.
I just want to put it a little more specific so that we don't
you're-
cause undue concern for people that live in the west part of the county.
Well, yeah, and you're rescinding it, so you're not changing any part of the road that was previously classified as, you know, whatever it may be. I don't know how far out that road goes and whether it's C or, It's all B.
East to the-
Okay. So anybody want to make a motion to have that at 9 AM on the 8th of April?
So moved.
Second discussion.
Yes.
So we set this public hearing, so for everybody that's in the room or on Zoom, this is just a public hearing to rescind the classification. There's no action would not be taken during that public hearing. That's all it is. It's just a public hearing. So, because I think we need some conversation just to, you know, put everything together. Obviously, Pleasant Plain has done what Pleasant Plain has done, but unless, Elizabeth, did you get something from Pleasant Plain officially?
so they don't have to amend the 2080 agreement because we're not, so the original conversation, first after the reclassification to an A, was to vacate that road. And the property, one of the adjacent property owners came and spoke to the board about that. And we had a longer conversation about what that would take. Specifically amending that 2080 agreement between Pleasant Plain and the county in order to remove that road from the county's required maintenance, basically. And then I spoke with Mr. Adams from the Pleasant Plain. I spoke with Mr. Adams and we were talking about what the city of Pleasant Plain would like. They're not interested in vacating it, but they want to have it reclassified back to a B. So that's where it stands right now. Now, I don't know if there are gonna be the adjacent property owners who are gonna have an interest in that procedure. However, it's really just going back to the way that it was.
And then the city limits of Pleasant Plain, we own both sides of the road. So we're both, so Pleasant Plain only has jurisdiction to Redwood, which is all of us.
Right.
It's all ours.
So could we do this? You mentioned we need to have some more discussion. How about if we put this on as a discussion item next week on our agenda so we can have that discussion before the public hearing,
Okay,
just as discussion, to go through everything again so everybody's on the same page, and if anybody wants to come and talk about it, to give input. Does that make sense?
yeah, no, that's,
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask another question. So our hands are, I don't like to use that word. It's outside our jurisdiction, right? In other words, whatever the city of Pleasant Plain says, or can we override them?
If you want to put money into, I mean, you can't vacate the road.
No.
You could classify it. It was classified as a B, you changed it to an A. And I think that idea and the reason why you reclassified it was contingent on the idea that you're gonna be getting some funding from another party who was gonna help with the repairs that it took to reclassify, to make it an A road. And my understanding is that now those costs have actually increased too. So it's possible that that third-party funding is not even gonna be sufficient. To do the work that needs to be done. But it rests with the Board of Supervisors to determine how to classify that road.
So city of Pleasant Plain's actions was just a wish list, so to speak, in other words.
They requested that it be reclassified to a B.
Okay, I get you. That's what I was. So basically, it's all
It's not
our
a
court.
wish.
And yes, the ball's in your court. And just so you know, Dee, the way that the public hearing was set in August regarding this issue was to discuss and consider resolution for reclassification to service A road on a portion of 110th Street. So to rescind the classification for that portion, I guess.
Okay,
I
it
don't
makes
know.
sense
That's-
to use the same agenda. item
Yeah,
then.
I don't know if that is specific enough, but you can always have further discussion
Yeah.
at the time of the public hearing.
All right. So to go back, do we have enough information for the public hearing? Or do you want to have a discussion item next week on the agenda? Or wait until after the public hearing for the discussion item?
I have enough information now.
Well, we should have, after the public hearing, I think we do need to have a line item that allows us to
Yep,
take action one way or the other, because time is of the essence,
Absolutely.
you know, in terms of the dirt and all of that, but I still think that there needs to be a discuss and consider on the agenda so we can take action.
okay, so do you want that April 8th?
Huh?
Do you want that April 8th after the
Yeah.
public hearing?
Yeah,
Okay,
we get
so,
public input and then we can have.
okay, so we won't put anything on next week then, have we? All right,
And that's, so we do the public hearing the same meeting, right? On April 8th.
All right, thanks. All right, you, the ambulance director, morning, Brian.
I don't believe you guys, you made a motion, but you didn't vote on it.
That's all right.
Motion on one, oh, yeah,
Do you want to withdraw your motion?
yes.
Hold on.
What did
Set the public hearing?
Oh, wait, okay, we need to vote on the public hearing motion to have it April 8th at 9 o'clock. That's the motion,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
All right,
And then we'll have a discuss, consider
Go ahead.
the reclassification, okay.
so we need to vote on setting the public hearing.
I'm waiting.
All in favor? Aye.
All right,
Okay,
Looney Tunes.
all right,
That's exactly.
morning.
One.
Hi, total call volume, since we started, 825. For the year 2024 is 393. This month, we've done 104 calls,
How much?
104. In our account currently is 83,525. Month to date, as far as deposits go, been 39,698. For the year, what's been coming in is 101,616. Yet to be collected is 511,723.
No, so stop right there for a minute.
Sure.
That's actual.
Correct.
For us.
Those are actual numbers, yes. Hospital transfers, for 2023 have been 72. For 2024, 67. Which leaves 139 total transfers for the month. For this month alone, we've done 23. 52 went into the shop for an oil leak, and it's been, it was out the very same day. Hospital was notified about no transfers, and then once it came back about 4 hours later, they were notified of the transfers currently. Everything else is running pretty smoothly. We're fully staffed. Everybody's on time, and nobody's out sick.
Any questions?
What was the oil leak?
It was from the oil pan, and that was correct.
Any ambulance news
Yes.
from the new one?
Yeah. He called me. Friday, I think it was, I don't know. And, they're striping it and everything. He said maybe this week, but if not this week, next. That we'd get it. And of course, must be getting close because he asked about invoicing. I wasn't a horse's pursuit. I didn't
Are
say
you a
anything.
betting person?
Huh?
Are you a betting person?
Well, I think the conversation would have to be had, I believe, because Brian would like to go pick up the ambulance, he would like to drive it, make sure that there aren't any issues or any problems. And so that conversation is yet to be had with Kevin. I think he makes a good point as far as that part of it goes. But of course, that would be up to you guys, up to us, you know. But that's, at this point, would hear from him and then make set up a delivery date, but I think him driving it back, and then if there's problems, I did find out that the liquid suspension is a separate entity. It's not part of Ford's components, or whatever you want to call it. But it is, again, a brand new chassis and brand new trucks, but has is full warranty for everything that's on there. So at this point, that's all I know is just that it's possibly this week. If not, it would be next week.
Right. Sometime this week, I want to come out and pick up work schedules, just what they are, like
No
February, March, and April.
I could email this to you as well.
Could you
if you'd
please?
like. Yeah, sure.
All right,
I'll get that out to you today.
thank you. Okay, any other questions? Alrighty. meet with Justin Stinson regarding broadband project. Good morning, Justin.
Good morning. Things for you. There's two there. We've got a bunch of different work going on within the Fairfield area. Initially, outside of the grant piece, I'll give you a quick update. We're doing a whole bunch of network rehab on the fiber network. That includes doing some resplicing, pulling some new fiber. Some of that fiber does go to our towers, such as the B Street Tower, that does support the fixed wireless build out that is supported by the grant. In addition, we're also doing some back office security updates and helping streamline a lot of the network. So it comes back to a central location rather than what we have right now are individual POP locations or point of presence locations throughout the city. We've got many of those. So we're trying to eliminate some of those POPs and bring them right back to the central office so that it makes our response time a lot quicker. It makes it a lot more reliable as far as the fiber network service goes. So we've got a lot of work going on in that. That'll be an ongoing practice.
So what about the grant? Where are we?
Yeah, so those visuals that I handed out, there's two there. The top one is our uplink connectivity between all the towers. That is important because it basically allows us to identify how each one of the towers is talking to each other and where it's receiving its signal and its broadband signal from. The second one is a heat map. So we ended up going back and redesigning some of the tower locations based on the height that we wanted to get. There's some new technology that allowed us to, from Tarana, which is the company that we're using. So we were able to upgrade that. And then we moved a couple of the tower locations that we were going to use to someplace different. So
can you explain this?
yeah, so the red is going to be your strongest signal. And so if you're within that red distance, more than likely we have a really good line of sight and you're going to get the best possible signal. As it goes down in the color spectrum, you start to see a reduced signal quality. Some of those areas that are either have no color or are really a dark purple, you'll notice that that's kind of along the riverbed. And so in most cases we've identified that there's no residences that need to be hit. Each one of those that falls within that, we've identified that we're able to hit each one of the ones that is required in the grant.
So I got a question about that.
Mhm.
So all the red is pretty much outside of the county. So when we look at county itself, okay, most of it's purple or green, and a little bit of yellow. So is this now or is this how it's going to be?
That's currently now. So we still have some tweaking and stuff to do.
So
And some power
the
levels.
reason we did this grant
Mhm.
is so we could have people that live in these purple areas, because
Yep.
they're the ones that need service,
Right.
to be able to get that
So
service.
every one of those addresses that falls within the county will be able to get at least 100 over 20,
Okay,
which is
I thought it was
100 over
out.
100 is the requirement for this
Right.
grant. 100 over 20 is the requirement from OCIO.
Okay, so wait, let me get that right. So that'd be, when this is done, they'll be able to get 100 over 20.
100 meg over 100.
Okay.
Yep.
And currently they're getting 100 over 20.
Well, we haven't turned all the towers up yet. So this is our current one. We haven't turned it up for service just yet. So with the tweaking, the one thing to understand about the the technology that we're using, it doesn't require line of sight
Right.
in order to get that signal.
Right,
So just because it is purple doesn't, or green or anything like that, doesn't mean that they can't get signal. It just means that they're not getting like a gig of speed. So the red, we could get up to like a gig, where the other ones, you start to lose a little bit of that speed. But all of them will be able to reach at least 100 over 100.
and what'll be the date that'll be live that they can do that?
We've got our first, most of the towers we're hoping to be done by the end of the year. We've got about 6 towers that, we're doing right now. A couple are down in Appanoose, and then the rest are up here. And so we're anticipating those sometime in second quarter. So by the end of second quarter, end of June.
How many towers?
We'll have a total of 17 towers with this project.
How many are in Jefferson County?
14 of them,
Or all of.
or at least covers part of the county. So the tower itself may not be sitting in the county, but it'll help cover those
Right.
customers that
Yeah,
are in
because
that
right now you just got Fairfield and Lockridge.
Mhm. And V Street, there's V Street Tower.
No, it isn't on your map.
Maybe it's not labeled there.
Might be under Fairfield.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at Jefferson County, there's not a lot of, I don't see any red. I see a little orange. Hardly any yellow, so I'm, evidently we're not getting like the
Well,
option.
Oh, excuse us, we need to do a public hearing, so we're gonna take a break from this. All right, thanks, Abby. So we're gonna go into a public hearing after we get a motion in a second, and this will be on ordinance amending Jefferson County Code of Ordinances, adding chapter 940, establishing special valuation of wind energy conversion properties. So we need a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any comments on this ordinance? And this is third reading. All right, any comments online? Any comments here or online?
Just for the public, this is not an ordinance governing wind turbines. This is an ordinance by which it gives us the authority to go up, tax
Right.
turbines.
Okay. Any comments? Is this pertaining?
Yes.
Okay,
So is it a definite that these wind turbines will be going up, or is it just still in conversation that?
we're
it's
focused
possible?
on this part right now. Okay. This is on the special valuation of wind energy conversion. So it's how they would be taxed if they were to happen.
So
that
would
make
you
sense?
guys tax them per kilowatt hour, or would you guys tax?
By the law, they can be taxed according to kilowatt hour or this other method. And this is the third reading of this. So we're looking for comments about this. I imagine we'll address your other question to some extent during committee reports. Okay, so do we have any comments on the special valuation of wind energy conversion property? If not, motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. We'll go back to, sorry.
It's that.
You guys need to vote on it.
Yeah, we need.
Oh, sorry. All in favor of closing?
Well,
Aye.
I think what she's saying is that below that is consider an ordinance.
Oh, okay. Okay, next on our agenda is consider an ordinance amending Jefferson County Code of Ordinances, adding chapter 9-40, establishing a special valuation of wind energy conversion property.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion second, any discussion?
Just again, so that public, this is not a wind turbine ordinance. This does not indicate that they will be erected here or not erected. It's just strictly the method by which we would tax that entity if it was here.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Fine.
Okay. Back to the broadband project. So we were talking about all the purple in Jefferson County. What,
Yeah.
you said by the end of the year, that should be more.
Yeah, because kind of the way these, we use a program called Google Network Planner. So if you look at the one, which is Fairfield B Street Tower, which is kind of right in the middle there, you're not going to see a lot of the red coming off of that, but we've got 360 degrees coming off of red. And so the way Google kind of overlaps everything from each tower, it doesn't take into account an exact amount. And so it's mostly taking into account where the interferences could be. But to give you an idea, some of our testing that we have done with zero line of sight within 10 miles of our tower, we've been able to get anywhere from 250 to 300 megs with zero line of sight to the tower. So this is based on a perfect scenario, or taking into account, you know, a lot of trees or additional
Right.
buildings or anything like that. So
Yeah. All right, do you have any questions?
I guess, I don't understand all the numbers. I understand the line of sight. I want to get down to the nuts and bolts of the thing. I'm the consumer. And I'll, in layman's terms, once you're all established, am I going to be able to get the same thing as what Lisco puts out, or Mediacom puts out? In other words, 100 megabits per second or whatever, consistently and all that?
Yep. The FCC just passed a requirement that all broadband providers have to provide at least 100 meg over 20. So that's the new minimum. So anywhere we are serving, that has to be an available speed if we're declaring it on our what's called a BDC filing.
Right, and the grant that you received from OCIO is 100, isn't it?
100 over 20 is the technical one.
Is it?
Mhm.
So what kind of a report have you given them?
We actually supply a report every month. That it's a required one with their grant, especially since we use part of the funds upfront in order to purchase the equipment, and just similar to what we're using with you guys.
Okay, and I know you weren't involved in the original agreement, but have you looked at that?
Mhm.
So one of the things when we get to the point of when residents can sign up, because I've had a lot of people ask me, is that we expect them to not have to pay any extra fees or anything if they need a pole or
Right.
something. So I just want to
Yeah.
make sure you were up on that.
Yeah, anything outside of a normal install, they're not going to be charged that. Is that right?
I've got to look on install, but I think that's
Up
probably
to
okay.
$2,500.
No, we never talked about that. 2,500, talk to us about that.
I believe the intention was that anything, if there was a extenuating circumstance where we had to put an additional tower on a property in order to reach these signals,
Right,
we would cover that cost up to $2,500. If it went beyond that, which typically it doesn't, it's well below that,
right.
that would be on the consumer side.
I think we probably need to talk offline about that and go
Okay.
through this because our intention was in providing this money is that or people should not have to be paying extra for anything.
Yeah.
Because that's part of it.
I will tell you that, based on our research, there's not a single one that would need any of that.
Okay,
We can reach it with the existing tower.
all right. Very good.
The other piece of that is that, we're now in that phase 2,
Mhm.
which is that second set of funding. And that'll help us finish the uplinks and turn up the additional power. There's some additional electrical.
Can you just send us like an update maybe when you send something to the state? I
Yep.
think that'd be helpful for us.
We can do that.
You got my email.
Yep, I sure do.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Dustin?
As I recall, obviously I was not here at the time, but that $100,000 of what we appropriated to Natel was to pay for those special needs that somebody might have.
Right.
We didn't expect it to come out of your pocket, but it is part of the requirement, so.
Okay. Yeah, we have a similar agreement with Appanese County, so I may be thinking of the Appanese County requirement that was in there.
Yeah.
Because I've been meeting with both.
So here's the other question I have, and I don't understand most of this, all right? But you two have been talking back and forth here about 100/20.
Mhm.
The contract specifically states 100/100.
Yep. Yeah, that's why I indicated that we'll be hitting 100/100. The state requirements through the OCIO requires 100/20, and the FCC requires that.
And you realize that your rates are being established in this contract.
Yeah.
And then it says, then agrees to set aside funds in the amount of $100,000 for the subsidized non-standard installations, which shall
Prioritize.
thank you, I need low-income households. Anyway, you are aware of all
Yep.
those things.
Yep.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Number 2, discuss and consider property tax abatement. And Mark sent us all an email last week. We didn't use online, yeah. We've got any questions, but you did a great job explaining this, Mark.
Oh, is it online?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have a potential solution. So mobile home was not on the tax roll, and then it transferred. So it looks like the bottom line is that the person's willing to pay $770, which would be the yearly tax amount. And the amount that he has to be abated is $973. We would get the $770 from the estate. And the mobile home will be removed, and we will have opened that lot up to be used again and put on the tax roll. That's kind of the bottom line.
Now we make a motion to approve the abatement in the amount of $973 contingent upon the $770 from the estate.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
That will be paid this week, if that
Okay.
makes any difference whatsoever.
You did a really good job detailing this, Mark. Thanks.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird situation too, so I'm glad I was able to make it understandable.
Okay, the discuss and consider property tax suspension. What's that about?
Well, I have not had an opportunity to discuss this with the attorney, or for that matter with Mark, but And I don't even know, I'm surely if we did something, we'd be setting a precedent, which may not be a good thing. But as you're well aware of, we had an entity that's closing stores. This laying off or eliminating 88 jobs,
Faircast.
right? And what I was wondering was whether or not we could offer for those folks that are working there currently that find themselves out of a job. If they'd have to go through the process of applying for it, but a property tax suspension till they can find work or whatever. That suspension doesn't mean that the tax goes away, it's just suspended, but ultimately they'll have to pay the taxes. First off, through the attorneys, I don't know whether we can even do that. But it was something that just popped up in my mind about something about being able to help some of those folks if they're property owners here.
You have a list of people that would.
I do not, well, in my mind's eye, I was thinking that they would have to show proof of employment. That from Faircast, check stubs or whatever, but it's just an idea. I wasn't confident that it was feasible, but I just wanted to pick out.
I think it's a noble idea. I think it would be logistically very difficult to implement it. Typically, the way that process works is if somebody is in the circumstances you're describing, they come to the board and talk about it, or come to you privately in any event, and it's more of a on the parties obligation as opposed to preemptive from the board's perspective.
And if you're interested in that kind of program, maybe not just limiting it to certain employees, but if you have specific criteria that you want to think about, like on a long-term basis, then that's something that you could implement. But I personally think that it would be opening up a can of worms if you limited it to specific employees of a specific company. But if it's something you wanted to do, you have set criteria for the entire county, then that's another thing.
Well, and I'd like to know, it would seem like the state might already have something in place similar, I don't know.
And counties can suspend property taxes, to qualifying individuals, but I think that limiting it to only specific individuals based on where they work.
I think we need more information.
Can I put my 2 cents in?
Sure.
I do believe that your heart's in the right place. However, I think that there are multiple issues with it. One, this is the very last week where we're accepting property tax payments. There are people who may have already made their payment through escrow, and you're reinventing the wheel. I've been dealing with this on a regular basis since COVID. There are things set in place in my office to take care of these kinds of things.
Okay,
So any of these that would come up for suspension would have to go through me first. And at that point, then I would send them on to you. So again, I've been doing this for 5 years now. I don't know that there's anything you guys need to do differently than what you're doing now, other than getting it out to the public that if anyone who is experiencing any sort of financial hardship is struggling with their property tax payment, they need to contact the treasurer's office, and they need to contact them sooner rather than later.
all right, that works.
So I would say this is not on the agenda. If we want to discuss this, it should be on the agenda.
Well, that's why I put it on the agenda.
It is?
Yeah, right here discussing this.
Sorry. You know, from what I used to do, that place is closing that business. It is probably proper for workforce development to ask for a list of people that are employed if they stay through their closing date. In other words, if they're going to close May 1st. Then those people will probably get unemployment. So they're going to be still having some money for 16 weeks. But this would open a big can of worms.
Yeah,
Because we can only help the people from Jefferson County.
Right,
Right.
you're right, it would only be Jefferson, and that, Mark, I appreciate, I can just direct them to you. I knew that on one level it was fraught with all kinds of pitfalls, but I'm sure that those folks feel like they got whacked upside the head and
Again, your
That's
heart's
why-
in the right place. We just already have protocol established.
okay. So, that works, but that's why I put it on the agenda,
Alright.
was to have.
No, good,
discussion.
good discussion.
Thanks, Mark.
All right,
You bet.
I see where I was confused because it wasn't specific to Faircast
Right.
people.
okay, number
Right.
3, meet with PCS regarding recent server replacement. Welcome.
Hello. Hi, Jerry. How are you?
You did a
Good.
really good job in your email detailing what happened.
Okay. Do you want me to tell you?
I do.
don't-
I just think it's good for us to figure out
Okay.
if we
Um,
need to go forward and do something different or.
I'm not here, so I mean, I don't really know what happens in the environment unless, somebody lets us know. I know in the past you guys have had major problems with power outages and stuff like that. And, I did recommend to Lee that it probably would be a good idea for you guys to get look into purchasing a generator.
How big a one? Any idea?
I don't know. You'd have to talk to an electrician because I don't do electrical stuff. So, I know other places have them and, it helps them out and stuff whenever they do have power outages or, stuff like that. Like I also said, power outages, acts of nature don't really happen on the weekends only. They could happen during business hours. So, if you guys have to provide business to customers, you don't want to be down. So the current battery backups that are in place, they provide anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour of extra electricity when the power goes out. And it just depends on the load on it. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff down there and it's all, stuff's plugged into it. State stuff's down there too, and they have a surge protector and battery backup for their stuff too. I didn't hear anything from the state if their stuff was damaged or anything. But usually what happens is the newer stuff, it's stronger and it's not really weakened. But over time, the more surges and outages and stuff you have definitely weakens the equipment. So this just happened to be, it was the weakest thing that was down there and it took the hit. So, when I figured out what had happened, I talked with Skylar, because Skylar's the one that had been doing the implementation, so I didn't know how far along he was. And the recorder's office was the only one that was on that old server. So I called Tyler Tech to figure out what they could do. Since I knew there was some conversation about moving from, the reason why they had to move to that new server was because they needed an upgrade in order to do the move. So Tyler Tech, the sales rep, talked with her boss and they decided to waive the charge to upgrade at that time. So they said the best thing to do was not just recreate the wheel and keep using the old stuff because they needed to upgrade anyway. So they went ahead and we worked together and I got them the backed up data that they needed so they could restore it. And they worked on that while I
And
got.
did the cloud help us in this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so the cloud's not, you have two backup processes. You back up locally to the disks that Shannon will change out. And then those are nice to have because if you have to back up from the cloud's usually not as fast as getting the data here as the drive is. The drive's right there. But there was something wrong with one of the drives, and I don't know if that's because of, if something is plugged into something and it loses power, it also can damage that or cause damage, spots on the drive. And you usually don't see them or notice it until you go to back up to that or restore from that. It may back up correctly, but then if you go to restore from it in that exact spot where it had a problem, it won't restore. So yeah, the cloud helped get everything we needed for them to restore what they needed. And then I took and I didn't want to use the old server because I didn't know what all was damaged on it. It would not boot up. So we had an extra one identical to it at the office. I got it and put it in place and restored your data, to get the old server back up because I didn't know what all was being still accessed on it. So, and right now that one's still in place.
So is this anything we should think of turning into insurance?
I asked Jerry the other day when we talked to write us up a letter or something indicating that,
Well, that would be the email you sent.
I can do it on
Do that.
whatever if you want.
Yeah,
yeah,
Be
I
a little
think
more
it would
formal.
go better that way.
yeah,
And
Yeah, I can do that.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained, and then turn it into joke.
right, okay. That's why I thought it'd be good for us
Yeah.
all to hear the same thing at the
I know
same
when I was
time.
on the board before, and we jumped the curb and hit the power box out here, that insurance replaced the computer.
Yeah. So as of right now, I think there was just a little under 30 hours that I had in altogether.
Okay.
And then I finished up with the recorder's office, got them all going, and then checked around the other departments to see if they needed the software that the recorder used. And then I think some of the departments also feed off the data that the recorder provides. So
Okay.
Tyler was able to get that connection back up for them.
Good, all right,
So, yeah, I mean, they were, it took a day or so to get a hold of somebody and get, well, not to get a hold of them, but to get something in place, because they had to contact a project manager, and then that person had to get a hold of a, I don't know what they call it, install tech or whatever, to get the upgrade going. So it took a day or so to get them going. I think by Thursday, it was pretty much up and running, so.
all right. Very good, thank
So,
you.
yep. And just so you guys know, the cloud backup really is just your data being moved from the machine to the cloud somewhere stored, you know. It's not an actual machine that sits there, and when yours goes down, it automatically just switches over and you're back up and running. I know, you know, that probably wasn't explained very well, but I thought I'd let you guys know so that, you know, you understand what it is.
All right, very good.
So, yep.
Any other questions for Jerry?
Just having sent a letter to the auditor.
Okay. Yep, we'll do that.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
All right,
Yep.
number 4, discuss and consider fund transfer. This is Shannon give us this, and it's 15,000 from general basic to general supplemental. And it will be effective today.
Want me to read it, or we just?
Yeah, why don't you read it?
Whereas it is desired to transfer $15,000 from general basic fund to the general supplemental fund, and whereas said operating transfers are in accordance with the code of Iowa, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Jefferson County as follows. The sum of $15,000 is ordered to be transferred from general basic to the general supplemental fund effective March 25th, 2024. The auditor is directed to correct his books accordingly and to notify the treasurer of the operating transfer, accompanying the notification with a copy of this resolution and the record of its adoption. The above foregoing resolution was adopted by the Board of Supervisors of Jefferson County, effective March 25th, 2024.
All right,
Motion to approve.
do it in a second.
Second, one more thing.
Do we have any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Excuse me. All right, well, we're signing this. I think we're, going to committee reports, so,
I had a Rust Board meeting Wednesday. And, did I? Or was that the week before?
Can I mention something?
Yeah.
You guys,
Oh, yeah.
I forgot to mention, so the cloud backup, the backups are no longer running on the new server, or the old servers. Since the new servers are in place now, the old one's just sitting there, you know, there's nothing that needs to be done with it, so what I'll end up doing is, decommissioning it, taking it out of use here before long.
okay,
So I just thought I'd let you guys know that the new ones are backing up and everything, and so.
all right, thank you.
Yeah,
Scratch that, I didn't have it. Rust Board meeting this last week, the week before.
When did you find out about, are we paying our rest person to work half-time in Mount Pleasant?
Can we get a new person hired? Yes, remember I told you that we were
Are we getting any money back from that since we're not?
probably not.
Well, it seems like we ought to.
Well, I guess you can have that conversation, but, you know, the way I look at it, you're talking about you spend more money going through the process and excuse me. He's still available, still comes over here to do inspections,
Yeah.
excuse me, if need be. So it's not like he's not available 5 days a week.
Yeah, Lee, I'm just concerned for the residents of this county paying half the wage of when he's working in Mount Pleasant. That's all.
Well, I understand that, but
Is that a Board of Health discussion since,
yeah, because the contract's with them.
yeah, I would think we ought to call the
Yeah, I
Board of
just wondered
Health.
if Lee knew anything, that's all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's a great point.
After the meeting last week, that we are running ads to hire somebody. Oh, something I was gonna ask you to now again.
Okay, so committee reports.
We all three were at Pekin
Mhm.
for the listening post for the wind ordinance thing. I thought that was pretty well received. There's a good amount of people there. It was very interesting. Unless, as I said before, it was a listening only post.
Right, and I thought it was very helpful. For us and for them, we had a list of questions and we're gonna get some answers actually. Next week, yeah, it's next week, I think I've got coming, the guy that I met from Mid-American is gonna do an education session for us. And so it'll be, again, another viewpoint who's in the industry. And I also asked him to include solar in that so we could learn about that, because we've mentioned in the future, once we get through this. So that's gonna be purely education.
He is on the agenda for next Monday. It's nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And because I was hearing a few different things from him than I did from Dusty Fox. So that's why I thought it's good for us to collect all the information we can.
Yeah.
and
So the other thing,
educate
I had a
ourselves.
Semco meeting, which was just pretty just in general things. But I have heard a lot of complaints from contractors. Let's say I talked to Conley this morning and they closed down the Semco thing yesterday for today because it was going to be too windy. So people were kind of complaining about maybe you should have waited till in the morning to let us know. Just, just public complaining. The last thing I did on Saturday evening at the ag grounds, the fair boards from this region were meeting. I did go to that
I was going to, and I.
dinner. You guys missed out on a very
I bet it was.
Yeah, I
interesting,
forgot about it.
I just heard so bad that
I understand that. But it was well received.
Good.
I can't, the fair board from this county did their level best getting presents or giveaways for every attendee.
Wow.
Not our fair board
right.
or me, but everybody was there, went home with something. It was a very good meeting.
I wish I had gone. I had it in my book, but
Yeah.
I did want to mention, we've got a public hearing on Tuesday.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, I will call in on that because I've got a doctor's appointment.
Okay.
Let's see what time.
It's at 9.
Yeah, and my appointment's at 8:30.
Okay.
I'm sorry, at 8:45. So I should be able to call in.
Okay, very good.
Thank you, Lee.
So just to recap, we had that listening session for the wind energy last week, and that's kind of where we are, is educating ourselves. So there's no decisions that have been made or anything. We're just collecting information. And we'll have an education session next week on that. I had juvenile detention on Friday, and they're gonna be doing a cyber upgrade, which will mean for us, they're gonna ask all the counties for an additional $1,000 a year to go toward, that, and their volumes have been down a little, which the grand scheme of things is good. I had Sitka Mental Health, they did their annual plan that goes to the state, did spotlight. And then we already talked about Pekin. Okay, so moving on, allow claims and
Okay, I want to bring up
reports,
something.
yeah. Sure.
for the board's information, and Chauncey, wherever he went to, Chauncey working real hard on the Jackson Point
Okay.
problem or situation. And we have secured an outside attorney who specializes in the separation from the for-profit entity, which is what something PC, National Bank, PCN, I don't know. Anyway, trying to get them out of the equation would allow us to make that a not-for-profit entity. And at that point in time, we can put the building up for sale. Whoever would buy it would have to leave it as a nonprofit subsidized for the bed space and whatnot. And if that was the case, if somebody came through and bought it, and in the condition of the sale would be that it has to be left for the purpose of what we're doing now, then Iowa Finance Authority will forgive the loan. It'll be a little while before they won't just jump in and do that. So kudos to Chauncey for all the hard work he's putting in, because I had no clue where to go, but I wanted to get the county out from underneath it. And it looks like there's a process by which we can do that. Becky's been notified, Gina's been notified, Sean. And like I say, Chauncey's working with that.
Good.
And the company that wants out is funding the attorney.
Okay.
So,
Very good.
Good, because that could have been a whole different
yeah.
set of events.
Good work there. Okay, as far as the lab claims and approved reports, last week, we received looks like $50,923 with opioid settlement funds that go into that account. Again, nothing has been spent. Our next planning meeting is April 23rd on that. So that's in there. Okay, do we have a motion for the claims
Motion to approve the claims and
in the amount of
reports.
$107,235.87? I'll second that motion. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Do we have ayes? I did.
What?
All right,
Oh, I see.
thanks, everybody.